Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the series. My name is Sanchez, your host, and we are joined by author of Getting High on Leadership, Mr. Paul Karasik. Today, we are talking about the section called Digital versus Face-to-Face, and it can be found on page 89 of the book. If you'd like to follow along with us, you can grab a copy of the book in the show notes below. Paul, it's great to meet you again, digitally, yet face-to-face here. We're kind of operating on the line maybe between the two contrasts of this section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's funny and ironic that, we're talking about digital communication and versus face-to-face, and here we are digitally.
Yes, yeah.
I think one of the great outcomes of the pandemic, from my point of view, was the incredible explosion of Zoom calls and FaceTime and so on and so forth. It kind of reinforced what I was saying in the last chapter, which is the phone versus reading and seeing and communicating visually, right? But it was a great move. It was like I said, it was one of the most positive things for me that came out of that whole incident. Was now Zoom calls were kind of like the way to go. I
did become the norm.
It sort of became the norm. I personally do 90% Zoom calls today, conference calls, maybe more, maybe 95%. Sometimes people are, oh, I don't look good today, or no, I won't go on the call. I don't have my makeup on, or, I just had my teeth extracted and I have a sore, whatever. But generally people pop on it and they're pretty good about it. And you're able to read them. So, and it made an opportunity to speak to people all over the world with an increase in communication of, let's just pick a number, 30%. 30% better communication because I could see you. And so
just
this digital,
that other dynamic.
What I'm trying to say is this: I'm not against digital. I'm a fan, a huge
I see,
fan.
yeah. So we're not, it's not that it's bashing digital, it's just acknowledging the importance of those visual cues and still the importance of that true in-person live connection. I mean, as face-to-face as we are here from our own offices, mm-hmm. I do think the connection could be stronger, right? If we were sitting in the same room, sharing that space together, yeah. I think it's still a step beyond seeing each other, but at least we can see each other's emotions now and kind of facial expressions and have a more dynamic conversation than we would just holding the phone up.
Yeah.
Up to our head.
Know what? And sometimes you have to make a choice. It was interesting. Yesterday I had an appointment and I couldn't make it. So I said, let's do a phone call. And we did a Zoom call or whatever, WhatsApp, and in the middle of it, he said to me, I think we need to get face to face.
Oh, realizing that, hey, it's time to see each other.
Well, that we couldn't substitute a digital call, a face-to-face call. We couldn't replace the face-to-face call with a digital call. That's what, which was my original, and I'm talking about intuition right now, right? So I'm talking about and when we, and this is somebody I know and so on and so forth, it was just a planning session. And I was thinking, it's really interesting. intuitively, I felt we needed to get together. There wasn't, we're looking at numbers and crunching its business and so on and so forth, and that's fine. Why do we have to get together? But intuitively, I felt that. But then I couldn't make it. So I said, okay, let's just do a phone call. And in the middle of the phone call, his intuition said the same thing,
on the
which
same
is,
thing.
even though we're just crunching numbers and there's no real conflict here, a lot of times you want to do face-to-face when there's emotional contact. You always hear the old put down, he broke up with me on text. I mean, that's like,
right. That's the
like,
inconsiderate way. Huh?
yeah. I mean, like you hear that story every day from young people, and he broke up with me on, on an email or on a Facebook post or Instagram or something. It's like a put down, because when there's emotions involved, then we really want to go to face to face. That's really the
distinction.
It's really the distinction, yeah, because the presence of the person becomes part of the conversation, and oftentimes it's easier to do things digitally, right? I mean, it is. It is. That's why people text and they don't phone anymore. That's the reason. It's let me get it done. It's faster. It's less communication, and I'll get out of this.
Right, and it almost also expedites just the emotion that would be involved in face to face versus just conveying that information, right?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, and maybe the most important part of this chapter is, don't and I sort of mentioned it, but really understand when any emotion is happening, digital is not the way to go. Even happy. I mean, the example I love to use is telling a joke. A joke I could say to you on this podcast, on this interview, everybody would laugh. But if you looked at that in text, limitations when emotion is involved is really critical. It's amazing how nobody phones anymore. It's mind blowing.
Right.
My phone used to ring 5-10 times a day. If it rings 5-10 times a day, it's always spam now. I mean, that's
now
it.
It's going to be text messages or emails.
Yeah, which is for a leader not the most effective way to go. The presence of the leader, to be able to read the room, to be able to see the body language, to be able to feel the presence is so here's the formula. When it comes to things, digital is great. When it comes to emotions, face to face. And let that be the guideline, right?
Right.
I always say never negotiate via digital. It doesn't, you will never win. You will never win. When you get to that point, any kind of negotiation, any kind of discussion about those elements, you will always end up on the worst side of it, with either an unbalanced negotiation or something, whatever the case, or not being able to come to a real smooth commitment. When you're present with each other and you can feel each other, I love that expression, do you feel me? That's a real popular expression.
That really cuts to the point here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love that. Do you feel me? Can you feel me in this conversation? You can't, it's much more difficult digitally, and it's a separation. So going forward, the conscious leader has to become aware of these times and how to use them, because it's very easy to sit behind a computer all day and never have human contact in today's world. I mean, of any kind.
Oh yeah. I think some days, other than my family, my human contact is mostly through Zoom meetings.
Yeah. I mean, it's Zoom meetings and emails and texts and,
yeah.
It's a lonely world. It's a lonely world. And when you communicate face to face, there's a deeper connection with the person. It's obvious. You can kick things off this way. You can communicate the words, the things, the stuff, the messages. but the actual sharing of consciousness, the actual sharing of our kind of universal bonds, if you will, happens when we're face to face. And that's where the magic happens. That's when partnerships happen. If I had a call on partnership, we could probably set the stage on here. But at some point, you're going to say, hey, let's get together.
Yeah.
Talk about this partnership. You'd say, let's, and you and I we spent days together visually, face to face. And
Right. That's what I was going to bring up. Like, if this series could have started if we had only met digitally, and I don't think that would be the case, because I had to see you speak at SciCon and, want to bring you in the podcast, or want to get to know more about what you're working on. And you had to see my interest or my expression in body language to kind of make this possible, the very series we're recording.
Yeah. There you go. It says it all. So message for this chapter, real simple. Use digital, go crazy with digital, but understand its limitations, and use your consciousness, even though it's more difficult, it takes more time, to have a 1 hour meeting with somebody face to face, if it's on the outside and it's not in your office, is really 3 or 4 hours. So I understand, but between getting there and so on and so forth, and the meeting and getting back, that's a big commitment. But I want to encourage you all the leaders, to understand the power of that. Seek face to face. Seek face to face. Do the other, but know that as far as when there's emotion, and leadership, as I've said many times in this program, is about the transference of an emotion. When you feel as good about the action I'm suggesting we take, that's when it's going to happen. That's when leadership really thrives.
Very well put there. Thank you, Paul, for the wisdom on this section. And for those listening and watching, consider your communication methods. Always rely on the easy there, the digital that gets us by in the day-to-day, but don't forget about the emotional aspects and the importance of face-to-face communication. As always, you can join us on the next episode. You can start from the beginning. You can pick and choose any titles that catch your interest, and you can grab an ebook down below to follow along. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_The Conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.